We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Welcome into Tailgate. Austin Gale here with Mike Renner on St. Patrick's Day in sunny Cincinnati. You're wearing the golf fit today. Better go hit some balls, rock it up, make some plays. St. Patrick's Day, which you love to see. It's St. Patty's, by the way, with 2 D's, not 2 T's. Sam Monson, who's Irish, always corrects everyone here at PFF when they spell it St. Patty's. It's not patties. It's patties.
You kind of just said
it's not patties. Patties. It's patties. On the Catch and Early Buzz, our Irish last night.
Our Irish getting it done right after a minute
against Butgers too.
Yeah, you love to see it. I think they're poised to make a big run in the tourney. That was the second place team in the ACC right there. They're no slouch. Now I was off Notre Dame basketball for a while after college, but I'm back. I'm back on the train.
Love that. I love that. Well, if the Irish lost, would you have been off the train?
No, I'm still on the train. I'm just back on the train.
Last night you were telling me that you were going to drive to Indiana at 6 a.m. this morning to play some bets. Did you actually do that?
Well, that didn't because we moved the podcast up. I was going to.
You told me to move the podcast.
I know, but I'm going to do it after.
Oh, okay. So you're hitting golf balls, driving to Indiana, play some bets. Are you even fucking working today? What the hell is going on here?
Working all day.
For what? When?
I mean, it's a long day, and you only have to work for 8 hours to tick that box.
The other piece on the Catch and Early Buzz, outside of our Irish winning at the stroke of midnight, the stroke of St. Patty's, we finalized the menu for Friday. And the guest list is premium. Chad Johnson or Chad Ochocinco might make an appearance. Both.
Did you reach out to Brandon Marshall?
I reached out to Brandon Marshall. Well, he reached out to me. He heard wind. Heard wind?
Caught wind. Listens to the pod and asked if
he heard wind too. But the guest list is kind of premium, so we might have to cut some of your friends out, but I'm feeling pretty good. We finalized the menu of tequila sodas with lime, Miller Lights, wings, and you went with chili cheese tots?
Chili cheese tots in honor of
what?
Cincinnati. In honor of the great city, sunny Cincinnati.
I need you to walk me through the play-by-play of how a crowd of 30 people enjoys chili cheese tots.
By eating them. That's the play-by-play.
So they're going to be sticking their fingers in there?
Yeah, I mean, you make a plate. You got a spoon in the chili cheese tots that you then fork onto your spoon.
Are you handing out a bunch of glass plates?
Not glass plates. What paper plates? You ever been to?
Oh, so you're buying paper plates now too?
I own paper plates.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm interested to see how this plays out because I'm doubting you.
Okay.
But you are going to the golf course today, so that's where you're getting the wings and cheesy tots. So you're pulling through. It's all work. It's all working of itself. Yeah. The only 2 major signings to jump on here on the Catch and Early Buzz that we heard wind of and caught wind of, Von Miller signs a 6-year, $120 million contract with the Buffalo Bills. I'm hearing that. 6-year, $120 million contract with the Buffalo Bills. I think essentially it's a 3-year contract with how the guarantees are baked in, and it's very similar APY, average salary per year, as Chandler Jones at the 17.5 mark. So I think a lot of I was about to say a lot of casuals. That's kind of fucked. A lot of fans, I think Buffalo Bills fans, are like, are you serious? You're going to sign Von Miller through his year 38, year 39 season? That's insane. It's like there's 0% chance. I'll say it right now. 0% chance he plays through that 6-year contract without a restructure. Without a restructure, there's a 0% chance. I think this is largely the heavy guaranteed deals.
The 120 mark was as fake as Taysom Hill's 140 mark.
Exactly.
A couple of years, last year that he signed. So, yeah, it's like you said, 3 years, $52 million. The interesting thing to me, and the sort of takeaway from this, and I know the Bills have been heavily trying to fix their pass rush or get a pass rush. The last 3 years, their their first pick in the draft has been along the defensive line. And their second pick last year was also along the defensive line. They need guys to get after the passer, need to get better in that regard to beat the elites in the AFC, which they haven't gotten over the hump yet. So respect that from Brandon Beane. Obviously a big investment. But the interesting thing to me here is how much teams nowadays, and some of this I think is COVID related, and the fact that kind of threw a wrench in a lot of teams' plans in terms of how they projected the cap out and how they projected these contracts. But so many teams are willing to do these all-in sort of deals. Just think about 8 or so years ago, talking about void years, talking about teams signing these and taking on massive dead cap hits at the end of contracts didn't exist. Like people didn't want to do that. It wasn't a thing that happened regularly. And now you have the Packers, the Bills, the Chiefs, literally like all the top contenders. The Saints are obviously wrote the book on it, willing to do these deals that they know they're going to take a bath on afterwards. They know it's going to hurt them the year after these guys leave. You know, when Breeze retires, when Brady retires, when Rodgers retires, those teams are going to take, like they're going to be paying Rodgers the year he retires, they're going to be paying him a full salary the next season to not be on the team. So I think it's interesting to me that how many more teams are willing to do this and maximize their windows. And we talk about a copycat league. That to me is the biggest trend I'm seeing league-wide, that like Von Miller, this deal, once he's not on that team, is not going to be ideal for them, but teams are more willing to do that, take the hit down the road for the immediate payoff here.
Adam Schefter later reported that the 6-year deal includes $51.5 million guaranteed, $34 million fully guaranteed at signing. Like, that's less than 50% of the deal, right? Like, you're going to see this deal and then be able to cut bait probably once we see the final structuring of it after year 3, right? Like, I don't think you're going to be entering year 4 with a ton of dead money on Von Miller. Honestly, I think the rest of that money could probably be cut and it'll be more optional when he gets to that point. The other signing, and it's not as big or as notable, but I found it interesting, is Miles Jack goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like that signing for them, especially on only $8 million per. Would you rather have had Miles Jack at a 2-year, $16 million deal or Foye Oluokun at the deal that he has right now? I don't know. I think I'm leaning Miles Jack.
I do know. Yeah, that it's Miles Jack. Now, didn't have his best year last year, but still young. And it is interesting, though. He fell in the second round because he had that meniscus issue that was supposed to be like a ticking time bomb.
Oh, that's
and
right.
Then, no one talks about it.
No,
it's
you're
so
right.
weird how stuff like that happens, where it's like, same with, to a lesser degree, Jadeveon Clowney's name. But like,
there was that report when Jadeveon Clowney was getting drafted that he had like the knees of like a 60-year-old or something, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's over."
But that actually has come back to roost. Like that we'll talk about that a little later. Actually, someone asked about Jadeveon Clowney. I do think he is slowing down because of that. But Miles Jack's knee is just like, you haven't heard about it since. It's so weird how sometimes that stories get overblown come draft time, and then all of a sudden you never hear about them.
That's it for the Catch and Early Buzz. St. Patty's Day, our Irish with a big dub. Von Miller, Miles Jack taking signings. And we got tequila sodas, Miller Lights, wings, and cheesy tots. Someone sent me a DM, and honestly, I felt personally attacked.
Okay.
He said, Austin, you're almost 30. No, he said you're in your 30s, which I'm not. I'm only 27.
Uh-oh.
He said, you're in your 30s. If you make a jungle juice, you're an idiot. And honestly, I felt like personally attacked. So we are not making a jungle juice. I'll never suggest it again. Like, I just won't. I'm not in my 30s, but it's close enough.
In college, one time we made jungle juice with, instead of like the fruit punch mix, we used a whole jar of pre-workout instead. The whole thing. That got a little out of hand. That probably was. I'm lucky to be alive.
What's your worst concoction? I made a root beer float. So I made root beer floats and then poured Captain in it.
Okay.
And it was awful because it just made the ice cream taste like Captain. It was like the worst. It was on Halloween too. It was horrendous.
I don't love those ice cream alcohol mixes. I would rather do a shot and enjoy my ice cream, like the whole buzzed creameries or whatever they're called. Not a fan. Those two don't need to be mixed. But I did one time a SoCo, Southern Comfort, and orange juice because it was the only two things we had. That was tough to get down. And it was like, that was all we had. So at that point, I had to drink it. Did not enjoy it. That was probably the worst.
Let's get to this mailbag. Before we do, this podcast is sponsored by Manscaped. The presenting sponsor is Manscaped. I used Manscaped last night. I got in a good place. I'm feeling good today for it. And someone reached out and said, I want a draft guide. Which if you rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, send me a screenshot of your review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can get access to a free draft guide. I'm giving 50 away next week when the new one launches on Monday. He said, hey, guess what? I clap every time you say, can I get a round of applause on the Manscaped read? That's a lifer. That's a draft guide. That's a draft guide. You think it doesn't matter what your review says? If you make me laugh, it gives you an edge. It definitely gives you an edge. Can I get a round of applause, everyone? Oh, I hear it in the back. that Quinn or is that Alyssa? Who knows? Today, I'm excited to announce Manscaped launched their Ultra Premium Collection. Believe it or not, it's for your not-so-private parts. I'm talking about a leveled-up hygiene routine with your favorite manly scent. This is an all-in-one skin and hair routine for the kit for the everyday man that covers you from head to toe, literally. Unless you're Mike Renner and you bite off your own fucking toenails. Manscaped is trusted below the waist, and now trust them with the rest. Join the 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped by going to manscaped.com for 20% off plus free shipping with the code PFF. I'd recommend using the products in this order. Hop in the shower and scrub dub that body with the Manscaped Body Wash. Lather your hair up with the 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner to keep your noggin togging up. I'm looking up togging. I'm tired of talking about it. What does togging mean? To dress or clothe togged herself in ski pants. No, it's just, this isn't it. This isn't it. I'm calling out Manscaped. Togging, we need to remove it from the read. It doesn't make any sense. Keep my noggin anything else. I want my noggin fresh. Fresh and smelling good. I guess it doesn't rhyme. Dry off and spray with the hydrating body moisturizer to reinvigorate dry skin. Put the Manscaped deodorant on for obvious reasons. Pop the Manscaped lip balm on. No one is here kissing up chat lips. Getting dressed after is optional. Wear one great scent all day long. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code PFF at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code PFF at manscaped.com. The power of attraction is now at a bottle thanks to Manscaped. Do you use the ball deodorant?
Yes. Not regularly, but
Semi-occasionally.
Semi-occasionally.
Gotcha. Moving to the mailbag. This is from Joko Ba. It stops now.
He's had an extra. It
stops now. This guy is cheating the system. How is he always the first guy too? Who is Joko Ba? Is Max Chadwick Joko Ba? Is Max Chadwick Joko Ba? Producer here on the pod. We need to find it out. Who is a day 2 or day 3 option for the Chargers to complement Austin Eckler? Why are you? If you're the Chargers and you're a Chargers fan, Joko Ba, fuck running back on day 2. You don't need a compliment to Austin Eckler on day 2. Go get valuable positions. You're in a window right now. Go make some plays. When you're in a window, knowing that you have to go get Justin Herbert the bag in the next 2 years, you need to be drafting with all of your day 1 and day 2 picks, offensive tackles, pass rushers, corners, and receivers. Every single one, hoping that you hit.
What? I disagree.
What do you mean you disagree?
At some point, it's like you have to weigh the fact that this guy might not be good at that position.
No, but okay, you're going to tell me there's a running back?
And you have a bunch of corners. You still have to fill out a roster, especially.
I'm not spending a day 1 or day 2 pick on a non-valued position on the Chargers, period.
Okay. I guess I disagree. Dameon Pierce is the guy I would love because he's a complement size-wise to Austin Eckler. He's like 220 pounds. And he's a very good pass protector is the other thing. He is, you watch him at the Senior Bowl, that guy gets after it. Great locker room guy. Ask anyone in Florida and is used to splitting carries. So Dameon Pierce, Florida running back, that's who I'd highlight as the complement to Austin Eckler.
Big personality, too. Justin Herbert's an introvert. He can bring out a little bit,
He'd be a locker room leader. He can be his voice piece. Voice box? There you go.
Voice box. Irishman 900. Who's the guy that made you totally reevaluate a position because you whiffed so badly? What's the easiest position to scout? So it's a two-parter.
I think Deion Jones is one, the LSU linebacker coming out, obviously with the Falcons now, just in terms of valuing athletes at the linebacker position and what they can become in the NFL. And I'd also say the same thing on kind of the opposite side for tight end, Hunter Bryant, the Washington tight end. Undersized tight ends have no place in the NFL unless you are an elite athlete. Then you're a wide receiver. So undersized tight ends are wide receivers. Don't treat them differently than that.
Wait, what?
Undersized tight ends are wide receivers. They better be able to be a wide receiver if they're an undersized tight end. If you're not, you're not bringing a lot to the table in the NFL. So easiest position to scouts, I think offensive tackle is at least easy to identify the guys that can succeed. Now, obviously, no position is like a 1-to-1. Oh, this is easy. But I think offensive tackle, and I also would say running back, just because, again, the athletes are easy to identify. 225 pounds running a 4.4 at running back. And you're breaking tackles at the collegiate level is usually a good path to success in the NFL. So I do think those two positions. Now, it's not necessarily saying you're going to have perfect hit rate, but it's just identifying those guys isn't as difficult as maybe other positions.
I do feel with off the tackle and edge, what you get, it's two of the positions that have the highest percentage of graded plays at PFF, because you're seeing a lot of one-on-ones, seeing them win or lose, a lot of binary situations. And it's also two of the positions where athleticism correlates to success and like key measurables correlate to success in the NFL. Like there's obvious measurable thresholds those two positions not need to meet, but almost have to meet. I don't even know if that's different, but a lot of them meet, like a high percentage of them meet these thresholds if they're going to be talented or successful in the NFL. This is from Blake Swag 11. What's positive for the Seahawks from the Russ trade? Is there potential Pete can get Drew Lock to be good? Should Seattle take a QB or BPA? Also, where would Trask, Mond, and Mills rank in this draft? One, we didn't talk about the Seahawks social media at all, about how they just like dogged Russell Wilson. So they come out with those 3 statements from the coach, the GM, and whoever, and all of them mention that he wanted to leave Seattle. And then Seahawks PR sends out that thank you to one of the best Seahawks quarterbacks in franchise history, when he's obviously the best in franchise history. The shade thrown at Russell Wilson on his way out was honestly spectacular. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it.
Tweet out that Wilson clip from, what was the movie? Tom Hanks, Wilson.
Wilson. Yeah, we've seen that 1,000 times.
But okay.
It's called Castaway.
Castaway, there you go. That was pretty good. But the positive is that I think we'll see, you might be getting a new regime here soon, which is probably a good thing considering how they've ran that franchise the past half decade. Is there a potential Pete can get Drew Lock to be good? I don't think so. There's always potential. Never say never. And I do think this sort of wide receiver talent there fits where Drew Lock wins, but I don't buy it. So should Seattle take QB or BPA? I think BPA because, again, you're not going to be good. This is not a great roster. You're not a great roster, and you don't have a great quarterback. There's a very high chance you draft in the top 5 and get a quarterback in next year's draft. And again, when you're not a great roster and you throw a rookie quarterback into not a great roster, what are the chances he's going to develop into a great player? I think you got to build up some semblance of infrastructure first. And then go from there. So you have picks now. Didn't have a lot of picks before. You have picks now. Do that. So where would Trask, Mond, and Mills rank in this draft? I put Trask and Mills between Ritter and Corral. So 1, 2, Corral's QB4, Ritter's QB3. I'd put Trask and Mills in that range in this class. And then I put Mond behind all the guys in this class, all the top guys in this class. I was not a big Kellen Mond fan. I will also say this, though. Positive for the Seahawks. From 2010 to 2012, they drafted Russell Okung, Earl Thomas, Golden Tate, Cam Chancellor, KJ Wright, Richard Sherman, Byron Maxwell, Bruce Irvin, Bobby Wagner, Russell Wilson, J.R. Sweezy. The best drafting stretch in NFL history. It can be done and done quickly. Like I said, 3 years to get the single greatest collection of like rookie contract talent that like has existed. So that's a positive for us.
Half of that draft is successful for some teams. If you even get half of those guys.
Yeah. You get one of those guys. So if you came away from 3 consecutive drafts with Russell Okung, Richard Sherman, and Bobby Wagner, you're a good drafting GM. This was an unprecedented stretch. And then they started trading all their picks away.
This is the ultimate Cope tweet, though. What's positive of the trade? Not much if you're looking to be Super Bowl competitive tomorrow.
Yeah, it's like if you want your roster to be good right now.
Then is there potential Pete can get Drew Lock to be good? That's your desperado right there. That is desperado.
Hey, Blake Swag, you want some positive trade news for Seattle? You just got Jesse Winker and Eugenio Suarez from the Reds. Jesse Winker's an all-star.
Is he?
Yeah.
Reds have all-stars?
Yes.
Wow.
No, well, not anymore.
Wow. So I saw a lot of, Quinn, maybe speak to this, a lot of Reds fodder on the timeline. Are people upset at the Reds' decision-making right now?
People are very upset. Because they're not, it looked like they were going to go full fire sale and try to rebuild. Mm-hmm. But now they're like signing guys and the manager's saying like, oh, we're getting better in a weird way. Nobody knows what they're doing.
God damn
and it's very frustrating.
Cincinnati
Positive news though, tickets are about to be really cheap this summer. We need a lot of games.
A lot of Brewers games.
We need that. We need that. This is from Nico030698. The Packers historically draft younger players and good athletes. So why do people keep mocking them redshirt seniors and non-athletes? Who are some realistic options at 28?
Yeah, they do. They do historically. But Clay Matthews was a redshirt senior. Dayton Jones, Demarius Randall were seniors, Senior Bowl guys. So it's not unprecedented. It's not like they have hard cutoffs. They probably just value age more than other teams. So I do think I'm Ogden Bernard Raymond. I don't think that's unrealistic for them considering, and he's a good athlete. He's a high-end athlete. I don't think it's unrealistic even if he is 24 years old. Because when they did draft a guy like Demarius Randall, it's because he was sort of new to football. He actually, I went back and looked, he played baseball his freshman year in college. He started off playing baseball at a junior college, then transferred to play football at a junior college. Weird career arc. He actually DM'd me once and told me he was going to make $50 million, and that one didn't end up coming to fruition.
Damn, I like that confidence though. Why did you fire a DM at you like that? Were you
He asked me
talking
for his
shit?
grade. He just asked me for his grades, and I sent him back his grades, and he's like, "I'm the only corner with that grade that's going to get a $50 million contract," and I was like, "Good luck, man."
Jeez.
I don't
You
know if it's
know
coming
who
at me hot.
consistently texted me and asked me for grades early in his career because I interviewed him before the draft was Max Crosby.
Oh, yeah.
Max Crosby every game was like, man, hey, what's my grade? Where can I get better? And all this kind of stuff. And now obviously he didn't ask for his grade this year. We tweeted it out probably a billion times because he was a freaking monster. All right, this is from Beast.
Oh, I was going to say realistic options though. So if you want younger athletes, the one I keep going back to, that pipe dream, Jamison Williams with the injury, could fall to that range. He would qualify as a younger athlete. I do think Raymond is a realistic option. He's an athlete, not younger. I don't think they're going to look linebacker. I do think Travis Jones could qualify for them, not younger, but an athlete. After that, those are probably the three I'd highlight from the top group.
Beast1224. After a disappointing combine, why isn't Burks being compared to a bigger Jalen Reagor? That is aggressive. That is a death knell.
I will say that's a similar sort of combine to Jalen Reagor
Really?
in terms of expectations versus reality. Remember he came in that year as like, I'm going to beat Henry Ruggs. I'm going to run faster than him. And he showed up looking, and Sam even said Burks looked not in great shape at 225. Like he's 225 pounds, but it didn't look like AJ Brown looks at 225 pounds. It didn't look like DK Metcalf looks. He's not a shredded.
No one looks like DK Metcalf at 225.
Yeah, that's fair. But he was not a shredded 225. He was a thick 225. Jalen Reagor came to the combine, 205? And it was like, it was not a good 205.
Yeah, he was trying to break the record for 40, and it was just not going to happen.
Ran like a 4.4 something, which is, I mean, it's still good enough speed, whatever, but it was not. So combine-wise, yes. On field, I'm not like, I don't hate it too much. Yeah. So I'll say it. Burks is a bigger Jalen Reagor.
So I have a thing about player comparisons.
Yeah.
So mockdraftable.com. If you follow the draft, you've probably seen screenshots of these spider charts that go out on Twitter. Some people even send them out on IG. It's actually done completely free by a guy who just likes following the data, right? It's not a paid site by any means. It's a fantastic website. It's mockdraftable.com. I've talked to him on Twitter a handful of times, but he's like, yeah, I just like to do it, which is incredible because it's a fantastic resource. But something they do beyond giving percentiles at positions and things along those lines is they do give player comps or player comp suggestions based on the athletic measurables, right? The height, weight, and then all the athleticism. His top measurables are Brian Quick, JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Des Fitzpatrick from Louisville, Bennett Skoranek, a fellow Golden Domer, Laquan Treadwell, Josh Gordon, Lil Jordan Humphrey, Zach Pascal, Matt Collins. Now, here's the thing about player comps. If you like Treylon Burks, you're like, yeah, I do see a lot of Josh Gordon and Treylon Burks. If you don't like Treylon Burks, you're like, you know what? He kind of does remind me of JJ Arcega-Whiteside. That's why I do think you have to lean into stylistic player comps more so than if you're actually looking to like
pure highway.
Compare a player on what they look like on Sundays, kind of. Like you do need to factor in weight to a certain degree, but I like comps more like a smaller Jalen Reagor where you're trying to make more of a stylistic comp than necessarily, hey, he's like an 83% of what Brian Quick was, and like or whatever. Like I just don't think you're gonna match what people are looking for on comps.
I agree. I do think comp should be tape based. Pure athletic comps are doing it wrong, in my opinion.
Tape-based comps versus athletic comps. But I love that, like, I've seen some people on Twitter who are like, I'm still really high on Jalen Burks. I think he can be Josh Gordon in the NFL. It's like Josh Gordon was a unicorn, a literal unicorn. Anyway, moving off of that, we go to Ethan Waugh. What info is shared between scouts, and is there any info withheld at the combine? Also, what questions are prospect asked in interviews? Do all teams share the streamlined scouting process?
So there is actually, so shared between scouts is like, not sure what he's exactly getting at, but there is medical information on these guys is shared in database. I am fairly certain that everyone gets, when there is like medical data, it all goes into team systems on these guys. So is there any info withheld at the combine? I'm not exactly certain what that means, but like if you have nuggets on guys that you think are valuable in terms of like you found it via your research, that stuff does not get shared. I am fairly certain. So what questions are prospects asked in interviews? We went through some of these with like
a lot of them. It depends on where they're at in the interview process and who they're talking to, right? If you're talking to a scout and they're doing like general background, a lot of it's like, what does your mom do? What does your dad do? And like all these like simple background questions, not necessarily like, you know, like interview questions at Google, or it's like if you're in a vacuum and blah, blah, blah. It's not like necessarily that kind of stuff. It's more like who you are, where you're from, what you're passionate about, how much do you love football, what other sports did you play, do you have any key injuries, like a lot of like simple stuff. And then there are other interviews, right, as you get with coaches and GMs, where they're asking you more about like, what role do you want to play, and where do you feel most comfortable? We drew up these 5 plays for you. Can you walk us through what you saw, and like all that kind of stuff?
A lot of it's
as well.
A lot of the stuff, the biggest stuff that they glean is whiteboard stuff. So like, here, draw up your favorite coverage.
Yeah.
What are your responsibilities here? What's his responsibility there?
What's the coverage on this play? Yeah. What were you doing here? What were you doing here? A lot of the most intimidating questions talking to some of these players is they ask you like, what were you doing here? And like you could be like just completely shitting the bed. Aiden Hutchinson was telling me that there are times where like they throw up a play and you just like get dogged. Like you just get like thrown on the ground and like, what happened? And you're like, dude, I just got fucked. And they do like weigh in like how you respond to that, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, that guy was cheating the whole way or whatever.
So
I don't know what
excuses and
making
your
excuses,
fault and
all that stuff.
No one wants to hear that. But do all teams share the same streamlined scouting process? No. That is, scouting processes are different via team to team. As we've talked about, like the Rams, they don't send their scouts on the road as much as other teams. And some teams love having their scouts on the road.
Scouts?
Some teams are super tape driven and could give a shit about analytics. And some teams have big thresholds that they will employ and take a lot of guys off their board because of it. So yeah, it's very much, that's what makes it so fun.
Oh, I think I skipped a question. This is from Greg Papelbaum. Why such a disparity between Ryan Jensen's PFF grade and how O-line guys in media view him? Duke Mayweather, Brandon Thorne, Jeff Schwartz had him as a first-team All-Pro despite being 12th in grade. I will say this. I was having this conversation with someone recently. Okay. PFF grades are so much more descriptive than they are, is this guy good or is this guy bad? Like Ryan Jensen is an all-pro caliber offensive lineman, right? And being low in PFF grade over a stretch of games or whatever, does not mean he's now not an all-pro caliber offensive lineman. I do think that they often are billed or marketed as like this end-all be-all of like you're either a good player or a bad player depending on your PFF grade. Ryan Jensen's career PFF grade is probably like top 3 among centers, right? And I do think that in a single season, right, where all pros are given to like how you perform in a single season, I do think that like you could leverage like, oh man, you should give it to someone else. I just think they're too often seen as like, oh, if he has a 68.4 PFF grade, PFF thinks he sucks. It's like, no, this is how he graded in an advanced charting process over a series of games or a season. I hate when people immediately say, oh, he only has a 69-point grade, he's trash. It's like, that's not who he is. It's what he did over this series of game over a season.
And I'll add to that the grading system for offensive line particularly is far more loss based in terms of the more you lose, the better chance your grade is going to go down. Now, offensive linemen, and like even in the scouting process, you value high-end reps where like that are big wins more so than you will maybe downgrade a guy for losses. So we do not value high end reps. It is purely a grading, especially in pass protection. You do not get positive grades in pass protection. If you did your job in pass protection, you did your job. You got a 0. If you lost pass protection, though, you lost. So he had 27 pressures allowed this past year. That was a fairly high number for a center. That's why he's going to have a lower PFF pass blocking grade. But he also has a lot of higher end reps in pass pro than your average center, which is why you're going to see, like I said, other offensive line guys be higher on him.
I also feel, though, I think Duke Mayweather, Brandon Thorne, Jeff Schwartz are all phenomenal offensive line evaluators, like phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But how often are they talking about a stretch of plays or a stretch of games, right? They're talking about the player. It's like Ryan Jensen is a top center in the NFL. Yeah. And every time I watch his tape, I see that. And you will, right? But I don't remember a tweet from any of those guys where they said, hey, this game, it wasn't Ryan Jensen's game, or on a top player not having a good game. If he allows like 6 pressures, they're not showing that data or showing that film. They're more often saying, wow, these are more examples of why Ryan Jensen's a top 5 player, which is great. Again, I think they're all fucking phenomenal, but I do think that they're more interested in telling you if a player is good or bad, which is great, rather than saying, over the last 4 games, he's allowed 18 pressures, which that's what PFF does. PFF's more descriptive in what has happened over the last X games or whatever it may be. This is from Radinger. How would you pronounce that? Ray Dinger?
Oh shit! I forgot to get to the Ronnie Rivers part of this. Let's save this one. Save this one for next week.
Okay,
I screwed it up.
Well, now we'll never know.
Radinger.
This is from Badger243. You had Emmanuel Ogbah behind Jadeveon Clowney and Randy Gregory. Why?
Okay, the Clowney one, I don't know. I was floored when we had him as high as we did in the free agent rankings because of, like I said at the top, I don't think he's the same guy, and I don't think he's getting any better. I do think his knee is – so he had microfracture surgery coming out, which is not a reversible process. Like, it means your knee is getting worse and will not get better. It means you're basically creating scar tissue in your knee to act as your meniscus. So it's not a good thing to have, and that's why it was such a big deal for him coming out. And it's just a degenerative issue where it's only going to slow him down. And I think he has slowed down. And so we were fairly high on him. Where do we have him in our 14th? I think his contract is going to sign this upcoming offseason is going to be a lot lower than that. So that one I didn't get. Randy Gregory, though, I would suggest going back and watching what he did this past year. At his high end, and this was obviously only his first real year of playing a full season of football, but he is a unique length speed combination that it's tough. It's tough to block, and he was beating left tackles in the NFL, which we've said a lot. Like, the difference between the guy who rushes off left tackles, guy who rushes off right tackles. I'm taking the guy who rushes off left tackles 10 times out of 10 if he's producing at the same level, because the NFL still puts their best guy on the left side 9 times out of 10. So he was killing good tackles at times. To me, that's the guy you want, is the guy who's capable of those kind of high-end plays. So Randy Gregory, to me, I would have rather had him than even like Von Miller, Chandler Jones this offseason because of the age, because of what he could be over the coming years.
This is from Wuhan. Why does PFF view Derek Stingley Jr., the LSU cornerback, as a top 3 player in this class after his last 2 years? Also, Liz Frank is a bad injury for someone at cornerback, and Sauce has been amazing.
So the Liz Frank thing, it's not a death knell. Julio Jones had a Liz Frank in 2013. I believe Le'Veon Bell had a Liz Frank at the start of his career. And like, those guys have obviously gone on and dominated since. So it's not 100%. It's not. It could be. I mean, it definitely could be. That's why you're going to have to see medical rechecks. But assuming he gets a clean bill of health, and I think he is going to work out at some point pre-draft. If he does test well, I'm not too worried about it. And then top 3 player in this class after his last 2 years. I think his last 2 years, the tape itself has been overblown. He actually allowed fewer yards per coverage snap the last 2 years than he did as a true freshman. He allowed under a 50% completion percentage still in the SEC. Like, there are effort concerns the last 2 years. There are not how good is he concerns the last 2 years. Effort and injury concerns. He did not play exceedingly worse football than he did as true freshman. He just had reps where it's like, what's he doing out there? That was not his best. So the talent didn't go anywhere. Is why he's still a top 3 player in his class. It's just, it wasn't the career progression you would expect from a guy who's as good for just like anyone in college. You expect guys to get better, and he kind of just was the same guy.
P-Buck81. Is it safe to say the Patriots could look at defense at 21?
I really hate that this man wasted his question on such a tame.
It's so tame.
Such a tamer.
P-Buck81, we need more from you.
Go back and edit your question. You can get another one in there. Because yes.
You can't encourage that behavior. Joko Ba has been doing that for weeks, months.
It is safe to say. That is very safe to say. And it's also safe to say, I think they should trade back with where they're at and where they probably will be looking. The guys I would highlight, if they do trade back, or even if they stay there, that I think they could be interested on the defense side of the ball. I've said Leo Chanel to them 1,000 times at this point. I think Travis Jones is the type of defensive tackle that they would draft. They've drafted DT a lot early on in drafts. And then if they are going to go the cornerback route, Kyer Elam, Andrew Booth, I think could both be fits for them. So I do think, though, that they are, like I said, a strong trade candidate, either up or back.
Breaking news here. Not necessarily breaking news, but I do think it's a leading indicator of something.
The Saints creating a ton of cap space.
Yeah, the Saints are creating a ton of cap space. They officially restructured Taysom Hill contracts, among others, Malcolm Jenkins, Demario Davis, Bradley Roby, all now. They were like $60 million under the cap. Now they're $30 million over the cap as trade talks heat up for Deshaun Watson. I did see a wording of a tweet that I wanted to comment on with Deshaun Watson. The Pro Football Talk said something along the lines of Deshaun Watson was really impressed with all 4 presentations from the NFL teams. Is that not wild to think that these teams are presenting to Deshaun Watson? Like presenting like what are they showing? Like the restaurants in fucking New Orleans? Like, I don't know. I've never heard of that before. I didn't know teams would present to teams. I thought the negotiations with teams was more, I mean, I guess it is different for a quarterback, but like, this is how much we're going to pay you. We're going to pay you this much money. I guess his contract is largely in place, so I guess you do have to kind of get into maybe the restaurant scene or whatever. I don't know. I thought the presentation aspect, is it a Prezi? Is it a PowerPoint? Is this Google Slides? Are you bringing someone in? Are you bringing like a New Orleans legend? Atlanta legend? What food are you catering into this meeting? He did have the three meetings with the Saints, Browns, and Panthers in Houston. He had the one meeting with the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta. That's where I don't know. The presentation aspect just feels like wild to me that he's getting like I just couldn't put my head around it. I just can't wrap my head around it. PG for 3. Second favorite college and NFL teams. You have Wisconsin as your second favorite team?
I grew up a Wisconsin fan, more so than even Notre Dame. I was actually a Notre Dame fan until my oldest brother went there, and then started following them. But I was a Wisconsin fan. I remember the string of Rose Bowls that they kept losing crushed me. The Wisco Russ Wilson team. That was probably like my last time I really was into Wisconsin. The one that lost in a Hail Mary to like.
Was that Michigan Andy Dalton?
State. And then they lost TCU in the bowl game. Yeah, nice. Andy Dalton. That was brutal. Tank Carter. Oh. So that's my second favorite college team. Second favorite NFL team. Hometown Bengals.
Let's go. Let's go. Bengals is obviously my second favorite NFL team, now being in Cincinnati for 5 years. It'll be 5 years in May. When I left San Diego State, I remember telling all my friends, I'll be at PFF in Cincinnati for like a year. I'm coming back. There's no way I'm going to be in the Midwest. Now I'm here for 5 years living with your dumbass. Eat chili cheese tots on St. Patty's. I'm going to put a gun to my head. My second favorite college team is definitely Cal. I grew up a Cal fan. I lived really close to Cal. I was going to go to Cal if it wasn't so expensive, but San Diego State, obviously, we are Aztecs, we are legends, which we are beating Creighton in round 1. We're favored by 2.5. And here's the upset of the bracket. Kansas, round of 32. Good night. San Diego State. Now, if we lose to Creighton, I'm going to burn our whole fucking office to the ground, but we need that. This next one's from Gail's dad's name. Before we get to Gail's dad's name's question, I'm going to remind everyone that this podcast is sponsored by Western Southern. While you focus on your roster moves, Western Southern helps advance your money moves. Buying your first home, planning to start a family, wondering how to make your money grow? Western Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to understand needs and address goals with a game plan built just for you. Get westernsouthern.com. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. Speaking of chili cheese tots, St. Patty's Day, in addition to being a yearly reminder that you can drink a lot and drink green beer, it's also a yearly reminder that Skyline Chili in Cincinnati creates an absolute abomination.
Green chili.
An abomination.
Green spaghetti.
Every single year. Quinn, I think you have it queued up for those watching on YouTube. Look at this absolute disaster. They are lucky that they have so much cheese on that you can't see the color of those noodles. You can see it kind of hinting. That's real. You can go order that at a Skyline Chili today.
I might.
No, you won't.
No, I'm not, because I'm actually.
How much would I have to Venmo you for to get it, to eat it? Oh, no. And let me videotape it.
No, so
for TikTok,
so
$50.
Green food coloring makes me puke.
Yeah, that's right.
I realized that at some point in college, when every year I would puke, and I wouldn't be like too drunk. I would just be like, oh man, I don't feel good.
That's not green food coloring though. They buy the noodles that way.
That's different.
They grow the noodles that way.
No, those noodles are just 10 years old. No, it's something about it. I don't know what it is, but
$100 you eat it on for a TikTok. It's worth the puke.
Dude, that's not.
I'll do it for $100.
At my age, not much is worth the puke.
God damn it. Maybe we'll get.
You'll understand when you get to my age.
Oh yeah, eventually. Gail's dad's name. Could Antonio Johnson go top 15 in 2023? Any plans to hit up Texas A&M next year? Yes. I'll answer the second question. We want to get to College Station next year. Absolutely.
Yeah. I want to see the 12th man do the weird thing they do the night before where he's telling bad jokes. Oh my God, that video gets me every time. Antonio Johnson, so he's a slot cornerback who played slot this past year at Texas A&M. Sophomore. I don't know if I saw a top 15 type of athlete, but he does have a unique frame, and he is, like I said, still young, so could continue to grow into that. But 6'3", 200, so that's like a safety, though. So top 15 for a safety, big call to make. I think he's very talented, for sure. But right now, I probably wouldn't put him in that mix.
We need to get more proactive about.
But you played very well last year. Tresh is all taking his pants for this cat.
Really? Antonio
Johnson? Called him the best DB in college football coming back. So.
Wow. Antonio Johnson, Texas A&M. We need to be more proactive with getting the listeners involved in planning the tour next year. I don't know how we do it, but like last year, we just kind of planned it ourselves. This year, I feel like we have to get people involved. Quinn, any ideas? Alyssa, any ideas?
Vote. Like put out like polls on
graphic.
Social. You know what I mean?
Instagram polls.
IG polls.
IG polls, TikTok polls.
But then knowing our fans, like if I put, some games we have to lock in.
Yeah.
I can't be getting sent anywhere other than Notre Dame, Ohio State week 1.
Well, we have to go back to Ohio State so we can do the.
Or maybe it's just like vote for your school and we'll come to the school at some point.
Yeah.
So whoever gets their school voted for the most, we'll find a game, we'll go to it.
Well, I'll think about it more. But if you have ideas, drop it in the YouTube channel. We can see the comments, or drop it in an Apple Podcast, Spotify review. Because we need ideas. We have to go do a Dunkaroo at Ohio State next year, though. Yeah. One of us has to do a Dunkaroo. Did we explain Dunkaroos on the pod? I think we did when we went to Ohio State. But a Dunkaroo is where you do a cake stand for as long as you can, and then someone hits you in the face, right? Or is there more than that? Something along those lines.
You get splashed with water.
Yeah.
Splashed with ice water. Yeah.
It's not great, but I think we need to do it for the pod.
Yeah.
They got the street meat at Ohio State, too.
The street meat at Ohio State is absolute lava.
The fact that more places don't. Cincinnati needs up their street meat game.
We're getting off on some tangents here, but did I tell you, we went over this dating app idea.
Yeah.
Have I told the listeners, though?
No.
I think, Alyssa, I need your take on this. Quinn, too. So the struggle with dating apps, right, is that whether it's Hinge, Tinder, whatever you're working on, you can't, if you're allowed, you fall into this purgatory of just messaging back and forth to someone like you legitimately don't know and don't care about. Hey, how are you? Doing well. What do you do? I don't care. You just go through these back and forths where nothing ever happens. And if you do get too forward and say something along the lines of, let's grab coffee, let's grab drinks, maybe too soon, they could see it as being weird or whatever, and then you end up just not meeting. Whatever. And that's maybe just me. But if you lower this barrier of like, if you ask to go get drinks before you ask me what I do for work and what my horoscope is, if you lower this barrier of like how weird that is, I think there's legs. So the app is you're only allowed X amount of messages before you can't talk anymore. It's over. And in the app, it's like connected to Google Maps. You can set a public place where you could meet. And it's like leans into this idea of like, you only have a handful of messages to either exchange numbers or meet somewhere. And now if you exchange numbers, that obviously moves you a little bit more forward, or Snapchat or whatever. I don't Snapchat. Then the name of the app, this is courtesy of Mitch Kaiser. Shout out to an intern here at PFF and also a good buddy of ours. Rendezvous. Alyssa, immediate reactions. I know Mike's reaction. He has a girlfriend, whatever. Alyssa.
I love the name of it, Rendezvous. That's a move. I feel like...
Yeah, we met on Vu. It's fucking
literally.
hot.
I feel like if I'm meeting up with someone after only a minimum amount of messages, it has to be like a mandatory background check.
That's
to be
fair.
able
But
to
you
log
can
in.
Google in 2022.
You have to post your resume.
IG.
Yeah.
No, you have to like
post a
link your
lot
IG
of,
and
a lot of
other social
background
medias.
info.
But like, also, like, you're able to like pick a public place, you know, and like you're able to say, like, if they're like, hey, you should, you know, if they're like in this rendezvous app and being like a weirdo, it's like, come over to my house. It's like, no, you're a psychopath. You're gonna probably hang up my skin on a rack. But like, hey, can we get a coffee shop, a bar, or whatever you're most comfortable with, and you fucking make a play? Because gone are the days of the hey, how are you, doing well, okay, whatever. Those conversations.
Well, you know, I never did that. That's why I would always my go-to line. It's the McRib line.
Your go-to line is absurd.
And it worked. It works because
Say your go-to line.
Your go-to line is, do you want to grab dinner or drink sometime this week? The McRib's not going to be around forever.
So here's my take on that. So chicks will laugh at that. I know they'll laugh at that. It's good. It's good. But chicks find that less awkward, more appealing than a cold approach at a bar in 2022 with like the technical age. Yeah. When they should know, you've copied and pasted that to like 60 chicks that day and they're still laughing. They're like, oh my God, this guy's a fucking sweetheart. This guy's got game for days. He's so funny. Buddy, he's been setting that out since 2016. I just don't get like
McRib's not back.
Like the line aspect of it. And in Rendezvous, it doesn't remove that need to have a good opener, right? You almost can't afford to say, hey, how's it going? Or hey, what are you up to? Or how was your weekend? You don't have a lot of messages left. You need to come out and say, what do you like to do? I like coffee. I'm going here. What's your take?
Yeah, you gotta. But that, you know what it's just going to be? It should be like a character limit because
I think both character limit and message limit.
Because someone would just put their back.
Send a
the whole
novel
life story.
Anyway, I think it's Rendezvous has legs, and I don't have the tech to design it, and I just gave the idea away to everyone who's probably going to design it for me. But if it comes out, I think it's going to move the needle. I don't know the tagline yet, though. We'll think about it. Big Chuck 99. Is there any chance the Giants take Kyle Hamilton and Sauce Gardner at 5 and 7? With the effect on opposing passing games it could have, would it be the best use of their premier picks? Now, I will say this. Doing Giants mock drafts, they would not be happy about that. I do not think Giants fans would be thrilled at that. They want offensive line, defensive line bad.
Yeah.
And I also don't, I think one of those two, like Kyle Hamilton at 7 and then say an offensive lineman or an edge defender at 5, like Kayvon Thibodeau at 5, I can get behind that, but I do think double dipping there. I mean, I'm not saying there'd be bad selections, but I think they're probably in a better place to go get one of these edge guys, especially if Thibodeau falls to 5, which is over under prop right now is like 6.5. Like if he falls to 5, I think it's a sprint the card in situation for the Giants.
Yeah, and just the whole staff they were coming over from the Bills, kind of how they've built. I don't think it wouldn't surprise me if they took a corner or, like I said, a safety, but like the way they've drafted with defensive line heavy, and just the strengths of this class and the offensive tackles that will be available. I think the O-line, D-line is where they're going. I would be floored if it's not an O-line, D-line, or O-line corner because of the fact that corner is scarcer. More scarce in this class.
Deshaun Watson's apparently finalizing idea of finalizing a trade. This is according to Aaron Wilson of Pro Football Network. If Deshaun Watson waives a no-trade clause for New Orleans Saints, league sources say offensive guard Cesar Ruiz could wind up as part of the deal. I think it's going to be between the Atlanta Falcons and New Orleans Saints that ultimately land Deshaun Watson. That's what it's looking like. Well, Browns are out, and it looks like the Panthers are out. I don't know how so we talked about the presentations. That presentation from Carolina could not have been sweet. That thing would have looked pretty rough.
Yeah,
I don't know how Dolly that would have been. I don't even know if Dolly's a great word to use.
Charlotte's a cool city, though.
Charlotte's a cool city, but New Orleans, Atlanta. I mean, you're not even competing close. Now, and they have better rosters, all that shit. I mean, what's going to happen though if he goes to the Saints?
I mean, if the Saints, you trade away Cesar Ruiz, and if you can't fit Teron Armstead back in the fold, is their offensive line that much better than Carolina's?
I think it is still.
It is still probably, but like you're losing a lot there. I'll just say.
Brad Spielberger of PFF is saying, would guess the players Houston is interested in bringing back from New Orleans if they do trade, in addition to 3 first plus, Eric McCoy, Paulson Adebo, Cesar Ruiz, and CJ
Gardner-Johnson, CD Deuce did just tweet 4 dots.
Oh, it's over.
Which, if he's tweeting 4 dots, that's not an eyeball emoji.
No.
4 dots is a what the fuck emoji.
That's saying sayonara, see you later. CD Deuce is also one of my CD Deuce. I think is one of my favorite players in the NFL.
Oh, I love CD Deuce.
CD Deuce is honestly fantastic. Makes the game incredible. Every game he's in, it's fucking awesome.
Could you imagine one team getting, like, you're hearing, oh, we might get Deshaun, we might get Deshaun, and you're the guy they flip for Deshaun. You're like, oh, we might get a top 5
And then you go to
QB.
Houston,
And then you're going to Houston.
I do think that the Houston Texans are smart to target the Saints. Because they have a lot of talented players on rookie contracts. And we've been talking about a ton. That's not an expression either. We're talking about a lot how they're not going to be able to pay all these guys, even if they are playing well. Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz. That I do feel that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, like, I do feel that they're going to, this is it. I do think the Saints are it. I think the Saints are ultimately going to land Deshaun Watson. Now, this podcast might be coming out after you already signed with Deshaun Watson.
Like idiots, yeah. It might be a Brown by the time it's all said and done.
Fair. This is from Mendoza QM. This guy, I think, has left more messages. We need to start tracking this shit. Are we just going to gloss over the fact that Renner said the Eagles shouldn't draft a wide receiver because they have Jalen Reagor? When did you say that?
I said, if you draft a similar type of wide receiver to Reagor, you're giving up on him. So if you draft, it was, I believe, talking about Jameson Williams or Chris Olave, probably one of those two. I think it was Olave, actually. Like, if you draft that speed threat, that like vertical guy in your offense, you've given up on what Jalen Reagor could be. And I'm not the only one who's saying that maybe don't give up on a guy after 2 down years. Chad Johnson's been banging the table for him. He said, Eagles fans, remember what I said about Aguilar when everyone was frustrated? I said, watch him the following year. Be patient. You went bananas. Trust me, Reagor is going to go crazy next year. Listen to me, please. I fucking love y'all Bulls. I don't know what the Bulls is.
What the hell did you just say?
That's what he said. He said Bulls.
What are Bulls? I think that's
probably a typo.
Well, he does say I fucking love a lot, because he did say I fucking love you, Austin.
Oh, can't say it. Even if you quote them.
Oh, really? Oh, that's 2.
Yeah.
That's 2. That's $40 at St. Jude's. Someone's responded to that comment and said St. Jude's is like an alt-left liberal disaster.
Better look into this charity.
I've been donating to St. Jude's a lot.
Are you donating to Antifa?
I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to look into it, though. If like there's a better children's hospital charity, that's where I lean, man. Children's hospital is where I lean. If you have one, let me know. This is from Kid Racer 4. What has been your opinion of Kevin Colbert's free agent and draft record? I'm typing this after he signed Trubisky to a potential high dollar deal, Mason Cole to a 3-year deal, Chuks Okorafor to a deal, 7th highest paid right tackle in the NFL. Signing mostly afterthoughts, free agents that often didn't pay out. In addition, he's drafted reaches and or positions of low value in the top 100 picks. Why hasn't he gotten any negative opinions on his draft history? Now, I don't think Kevin Colbert has made a lot of phenomenal moves. Now, they do scout receiver well. Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, Juju Smith-Schuster, they've done a really good job at scouting, evaluating, and developing receiver talent. Outside of that, the David DeCastro, I mean, they have had some hits, right? It hasn't just been a disaster for Kevin Colbert. I will say this probably to the day I'll die. Mike Tomlin's one of the most underrated coaches in the NFL. What he's done to maintain playoff play for the Pittsburgh Steelers over the last X amount of years is absolutely insane. Given the fall off of Big Ben, given the lack of help from Kevin Colbert, this has been utterly impressive. Now they did draft TJ Watt. I mean, there's a lot of wins that they've had. It's not like Kevin Colbert's been as bad as Steve Keim, who just got that extension through 227. But I do think that Mike Tomlin continues to lift the floor and the ceiling of that team. Again, he's one of the most underrated coaches in the NFL. He's top 5 for me. Top 5 easy for me.
Yeah, I do tend to agree. Like, so they have not been massive players for free agency over the course of his tenure. That's not really been their MO. And he's drafted fine. Like, I think he hasn't gotten a lot of flack because obviously they win. They've won a lot. And who you want to give credit to, that's your take. I give, like you said, I'm with you. I give a little more credit to Mike Tomlin. I think he holds a lot of pieces together that may not always be the best pieces. So I give a little more credit there. But if you compare his draft track record to this basically average NFL, I think he's above average even still. But the odd thing about them is they're one of the least analytically driven front offices in terms of drafting, scouting, decision-making in the league. And it's how you can, and so they don't have like cutoffs, they don't have athletic thresholds, they don't covet age or whatever. That's how you can draft Jarvis Jones and Bud Dupree in the first round. Two opposite ends of the spectrum athletically and two opposite ends of the spectrum production in college. They were just vastly different players, but it's just, they see a guy, they like a guy, they draft a guy. They watch the tape, and that's what they base their sort of entire scouting process off of. So I don't think he's I don't think he's deserving of a ton of flack. Like, obviously he's made some bad moves. I don't think he's been great by any means. But if you just look at him in a sort of the baseline or in terms of the average NFL evaluator, has a worse hit rate than Kevin Colbert. So I think that's why you're going to see him not get a ton of flack. So like him retiring, I don't think it's going to be a massive like hit for this team and roster. Not really the lasting sort of impact you want, though, with this last year of free agency being kind of a wet fart, for lack of a better word.
That's like honestly the worst word.
There are better words, actually.
For lack of a better word, find anything else. Dry fart. Sebastian Assing. Speaking of wet fart, which player could you trade up for in the upcoming draft, since we know that QB won't be a pick, and which team could be in the market for such a move?
The one not to keep harping on Derek Stingley, but one of these corners, because I've talked about you want the top three. You want McDuffie, you want Stingley, you want Sauce. Sauce is probably going to go high. I think everyone and their mother will agree on that. Stingley and McDuffie could fall. Now, you get one of those guys falling outside to where the range of the Eagles, or if two of them are falling to the Eagles, and the Eagles were likely to take one of them, but like you're the Bills, you're the Patriots, you're someone in the 20s who that guy might not make it past Pittsburgh. It might not make it to you. At that point, I want one of those three. I want one of those guys. I think they're that good at cornerback. So I think cornerback's the one I could see a team trading up for. And like I said, those would be the teams I'd highlight.
Without highly anticipated quarterbacks in this draft, there's even a good possibility in trading down for more picks, or teams even going to look for that. I do think that the trade downs this year will be discounted.
Yeah, you're not going to see a Bears move, where I don't think a future first gets moved in this draft. I would be floored if it does. But there's always trades. Everyone always locks in on someone. And some of that's because, back to what I mentioned about boards being a lot of people taking guys off their board. Sometimes guys trade up because they don't have a lot of guys on their board that they would draft if it got to them. Like that they only have, maybe they're sitting at pick 25 or whatever have you. And it's like, I have one more guy with the first round grade on my board, and he's 5 picks away from us. I think I have to go get him. And I think that's a lot of times what you see happen with trades, is that teams have taken so many guys off their board, so many guys that they would not draft, even if they did fall to them, that they feel like they have to make that move.
This is you're saving Raw Dinger.
Oh yeah, sorry.
This is from John Binner on Twitter. Last one for the pod. Draft hypothetical. Both New York teams go all in on O-line. Jets grab Evan Neal, Tyler Linderbaum at 4 and 10. Giants grab Ike Ekwonu to play guard, and Charles Cross at 7. Which O-line would you rather have going forward?
This one's easy to me. It's the Jets. Jets could have, you draft Linderbaum and Neal. You'd have after signing Laken Tomlinson, after drafting Elijah Vera Tucker in the first last year, after drafting Mekhi Becton in the first year prior. Maybe not year one, but year two, that could be the best offensive line in the NFL. So give me the Jets in that scenario.
I'm taking the Jets as well. I think the Jets, we need Mekhi Becton healthy, but I'm taking the Jets as well. That's going to do it for this episode of the podcast, the bonus mailbag. Make sure, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast if you do want your listener mailbag, your listener question on the mailbag episode. The other thing I'll mention too is the Speak Pipes. Speakpipe.com/tailgate, which is available in our description. You guys are overloading us with trash. You guys are coming at us and not dropping us any questions. You guys are saying things like, Mike Ritter's mom's got I don't know. It was a weird one that I can't even mention on the pod.
My mom's got what now?
It's not great. It's not great. My mom, my dad, your mom. Your dad never gets any shade. Probably because he's a perfect individual.
Doc.
I love your dad. Such a good dude.
Yeah.
Such a good dude. Guy gets absolutely tanked every time I see him, but in a good way. My dad does the same, but then he gets behind the wheel. I do think that the Speak Pipes need to be better. They need to be questions. You're coming in. You're coming in too hot. We need questions on the Speak Pipes. But until next time, when we get back, it'll be fresh off of chili cheese tots, Miller Lights, and the tequila sodas bender. So looking forward to that. Until next time, Austin Gale, Mike Renner, Tailgate.